Okay, we're recording. Dominic, how are you today?
I'm keeping it real in a rather um, wet and cold, um, deepest, darkest London at the moment. It's absolutely freezing.
I'm not too far from you, mate, and it's ridiculously fresh out there, mate.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's nippy.
but you're still sporting a kind of is that a t-shirt? Are you still got a retro Adidas t-shirt?
Well, this is the original one from the 2004, 2005 period of the others. So I try to always remain on brand.
Love it, love it. Consistency's key there, mate. All right. Well, look, I'm looking forward to chatting records today because I've already had a sneak peek at your tracks, and there's some crackers to discuss today. So we're going to start things by me asking you to tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please.
Wow. I was really grateful for these questions, and I think they're pretty cool. Um, so I was just trying to go through the record collection and try and think like, what I think is a good intro. Um, and I didn't want to go all prog and start sort of maybe, Emerson, Lake and Palmer or
Uh
something
huh.
for you in terms of like long intros so that your audience would be just annoyed with me. So I didn't do that. So I've gone with Pavement, and the song is Fight This Generation, and it's from the album Wowie Zowie. So I'm sure a lot of your audience out there have heard of Pavement in their time, but maybe Fight This Generation is not a song that comes to mind for most. What I like about the song, it's like it's almost like two songs in one. The intro is very like calm and almost foreboding in how it presents itself. And then it just cuts in with this just blinding sort of halfway point where the song totally changes, gets rather violent at times, and rather aggressive. And I spent sort of most of my 90s listening to this song.
Well, Pavement a
Um,
big band for you in the '90s.
yeah, so the thing is, like, I think everybody thinks that most of us, boys and girls in the 90s, like, is all we listened to was either Nirvana or Blur or Oasis. And maybe they were the only sort of bands that, were around. But I think, I like Elastica, um, rather fond of Pavement, rather fond of Sonic Youth. And they were the kind of bands that I was listening to.
Do you think the aforementioned uh, bands were gateways to them other bands? Because for me, I discovered Pavement, Dinosaur Jr. and Mudhoney and all them via Nirvana. After sort of the noise around Nirvana, then sort of made me look at what else was happening within that scene and finding the more lo-fi stuff. And the same, I guess, could be said for like bands like Elastica. You can go to via, you know,
Blur.
mm,
Look, what I would say is this, is that I was into Sonic Youth pretty early. So my best friend, who I wrote a song about called William, he had some older brothers. And then his older brothers had their kind of music taste, and somehow that filtered through to William, that filtered through to me. And we got hold of Sonic Youth. And we got hold of Sonic Youth when we were like 13. And I remember getting the year that punk broke, the 1991 video. And I had to buy that on VHS, and
mm,
I lived in the middle of the country, like fucking nowhere, and I would have to travel up on a bus to either Bath or Bristol to go and spend my well-earned paper round money to go and buy my VHS video.
mm.
Um, Unlike today where you get everything on YouTube. And I'd gone up there and I'd got my year that punk broke because I just really wanted to see Sonic Youth live. I had a few albums by that time. But I didn't have any sort of live footage because they're pretty hard to see on TV.
Mm,
So I'd got that, and that had a few Nirvana songs on, of them playing live with them supporting Sonic Youth. So that's how I heard Nirvana the first time
mm,
through that video. With reference to Pavement, Pavement again kind of came from William's brother getting it through to William, getting it through to us. So that's how I got into Pavement, and William got to see Pavement before me as well. Ah. But he got to see them at Bristol, and I wasn't at that concert, but he kind of was seeing them before me.
yeah.
And then Elastica. I wouldn't say I got in through Blur, but that would be, the reference point or Suede or something like that. But Elastica, it was just more like John Peel, really, I think,
Mm,
as he was really much an advocate of Elastica. So I kind of got in that way, really.
mm. And was it um well Lamac as well? I think was on them quite early because did he put out their first track? Did he put out Elastica's early stuff on his little label? I might be
No,
wrong. I might be wrong.
I remember obviously his show with Joe Wiley,
Mm,
which is like the evening session, I think, in the
mm,
90s. And Lamach was particularly good to the others, really. So he's the only DJ that put us on Radio One. And we got a session on his show on Radio One in the old days before he sort of converted to Radio
yeah.
Six, obviously, naturally. So like we obviously respect Lamont. Thanks ever so much for what he did. In terms of the evening session, he played Pavement and he played Elastica
Mm,
and stuff like that in the early days. Um, but yeah, I kind of got Elastica really through Peel really because he was
yeah.
really endorsing him.
And it's interesting, you saying that you was 13 when you was exposed to Sonic Youth and stuff like that. And that's I wouldn't say that Sonic Youth, and I'm a big Sonic Youth fan. I wouldn't say that it's the most accessible music. Certainly not at 13. When
I had Jet Set Trash, an experimental album, which is like the one after Dirty. And I had a big picture of them in New York on my wall, but at the same time, I had a big picture of the Small Faces.
yeah,
So when you're like 13, 14 years old and you've got Sonic Youth on your wall and next to it the Small Faces, there was
yeah,
like quite a contrast.
yeah, just a bit.
Why would a kid be listening to both?
Yeah,
Um, my mum's musical taste was a bit different than mine, and maybe what you do is you listen to stuff that kind of rebels against your parents. So maybe that's why I was listening to Small Faces, and
yeah,
that's why Sonic Youth was really good because Sonic Youth could drown out beats of electronic music really lovely. So if you played Sonic Youth at high levels with the distortion and the feedback that could drown out having to listen to like house music or, maybe stuff you didn't like.
yeah. I'm going to ask you, Dominic, to tell me the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
Now, there may have been other songs before this,
Okay.
okay, but I had to put it in perspective of like, what really touched me. So like when I had to leave home, it was a big thing for me because obviously I'd been at home until I was 18. And I had to leave home to move to London. And it's kind of a big push for anyone who's from a small country farming place.
And
Um,
18 is still incredibly young, isn't it?
well, I think so, but I knew friends who left at 16 and shit. But yeah, like Somerset's pretty green, but there ain't many jobs, and there is certainly a brain drain with reference to our county. And if you haven't got um the opportunity to leave, you're going to be stuck because there's just no way out. And so I knew I had to leave and I knew I had to try and get my degree and get out. Um, when I was going through that period, the song "Move On Up" by Curtis Mayfield was probably something that really touched me because, like, I didn't know really if I had the strength to make it work, and I didn't know if I was going to pass my degree. I didn't know if it was all going to end in tears. And I certainly didn't know if I would be able to form a band or have a relationship or be me, be able to just escape where you're from. So it's all a very big, big gamble for me.
Yeah, yeah,
So the song at the time, like I used to have to either get buses or trains back home now and again, and every time I would use this song as like a thing of strength to try and like, motivate me through difficult times. Because the first few years at uni were pretty hard. I had to work in a call center, doing market research as well as trying to study for my degree in politics. Um, so it's a pretty tricky time, and I think "Move On Up" by Curtis Mayfield. If you're ever doubting yourself
yeah,
and you just need that extra bit of, I don't know, just like God on your side, having Curtis on your side ain't half bad.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Amen to that. Um, I mean, we should also say that as far as intros goes, that's a cracker as well.
Yeah,
Uh, like that grabs you right from the off. Yeah, I think if you had to pinpoint what that emotion was, what would it have been?
just hope, really, more than anything. Hope, just that you could get away and
Yeah,
you might be able to do it all on your own, even though it's stacked against you. Like,
yeah,
you know, I think that song gives you hope that you've got no one else helping you. It's up to
yeah,
yourself. He's telling you it really cruelly at the same time, but in a nice way,
yeah,
in lovely words. But yeah, it's more like, look, it's only up to you. You've got no one else but
yeah.
yourself. But, try your best and you might just get there.
Tell me a little bit about the years before that. You know, where where you grew up. Was home a musical environment?
Yeah, it certainly was musical, that's for sure. Not in terms of mum or her boyfriend playing instruments, nothing like that. But in terms of their interests in music were pretty cool. So my mum liked Neil Young, um, Rob liked Killing Joke, that's my mum's boyfriend. Um, and he would listen to Public Image Limited and Alien Sex Fiend and New Model Army. And Mum would also listen to, things like the KLF and the Shaman. Um,
So you're getting exposed to some really good stuff there at a young age.
yeah, so that kind of music. But in terms of electronic music, it was that kind of period. And I must admit, I just didn't gravitate to the electronic sounds. When they played Neil Young, I was pretty happy with that,
Mm,
and learnt a lot from his songs. But electronic music was kind of big in the 80s, and it was played a lot. I liked Happy Mondays,
mm.
definitely, but I was just not into stuff without lyrics, really.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Well, let's stay in the formative years for track three, Dominic. I'm going to ask you
Yes.
to tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
Yeah, well, what school's like. It's very much territorial, isn't it? And I did find it very competitive at school, in terms of sort of in our days, the boys, I suppose, would wear their school uniform, and normally under their white shirt would be the band's chosen t-shirt of choice. And so for the older kids, we were kind of looking up to them walking across the park at lunchtime with like Ned's Atomic Dustbin T-shirts or Sensor or the Family Cat.
Well, that was the era of the band T-shirt, really, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That early '90s, and certainly all them sort of what we call Grebo bands, like you say, Ned's, Stuffies, Poppies, all of that. Carter, it was all about T-shirts.
yeah, Swerve Driver and that, So we were sort of looking up to that generation where the older ones, 1 or 2 year above us, were wearing that. And then it was my generation coming through in like the third year when we were like 13, 14 kind of thing. And we were wearing Sonic Youth t-shirts to kind of go, oh, we're not just Nirvana fans out here.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
So like I remember getting my first Sonic Youth t-shirt and that was sort of filled me with joy.
What one did you
Um,
have?
well, in terms of my Sonic Youth t-shirt, I had the orange one from Dirty, where
Yeah,
front cover with the orange sort of puppet thing. And I remember just it was obviously like we had, like I said, dance music was quite big. So you had a lot of kids listening to dance music at lunchtimes. And then you kind of had your indie kids that were divided into two, mainly sort of the Nirvana sort of kids coming through, and Sonic Youth sort of holding the ground, and the odd Pavement t-shirt if you could get hold of it, which William had a Pavement t-shirt, but I didn't manage to procure one. But yeah, I think Dirty Boots really of all songs of the repertoire in that time was just something we were just banging out off of Goo. It was just such a song.
yeah.
So yeah, that would be kind of 13 to 15 really for me.
Do you think, looking now at how things are, with younger people now, do you think that tribalism is as strong anymore?
No way. I think what it is, we had a medium of I think four television channels in between 1990 and 96 in my teenage years. Um, we didn't have computers in terms of the internet. We only had one commercial radio station, really, Radio One, where we were getting our influences from. And I think that helped to establish tribalism because the sources of information were slightly limited. Then you move on to 2025, and you've got the internet, and you've got many different formats to be able to engage in music. And I think if a teenager is going to school these days, there is so much choice on the plate available that there probably ain't tribes. There's probably micro tribes.
Yeah,
The volume of resources that they've got available to engage with music of all different types and
yeah.
topics at the touch of a finger. To me, I just can't see how that would unify people because you're going to always go for choice. There's so
Yeah,
much choice out there, which is an amazing thing.
it is, but I think it lessens value in certain things. You mentioned earlier that you'd get the train from Somerset to Bristol or Bath to get that VHS,
Yeah.
and you would have devoured that case all the way home on the train, and then watched it, read every single sleeve note, which that I feel, and I don't want this to turn into like you know older men just moaning about how it was better in their day, but I do think that you attach value to that because you're not like smothered with opportunities and music. And I look, I love all the streaming services, and I love finding new music on it, and I rinse them. But I do think it really has to. I really have to find something now to like immerse myself in and listen to it over and over and over again because when I was growing up, I could only afford one record every couple of weeks, and I would play it and play it and play it and flip it and
Yeah,
play it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I totally understand that, but we got to look at like a couple of other things. So at the time, there was only a few catalysts that maybe myself or you could listen to at the time in terms of like guidance from the top. So you might have bought New Musical Express or Melody Maker. You might have, like you referenced earlier, Lamac and John Peel, and then maybe you might have The Word on a Friday night on Channel 4. So the sources that you were directed to were small, that allowed tribalism, like you touched upon earlier. Those catalysts that we had that informed us is now spread to a vast network because of the internet, and it gives a lot more volume in terms of people making choices. And the second thing, the product's gone. So yes, that journey home on the bus from Bristol with me VHS in the hand was like, wow, I'm going to see Sonic Youth when I get home. But those products have gone at the expense of accessibility. So yes, my last three albums that I've released, my fourth, fifth, and sixth album, have been available to only download on Spotify and
Yeah,
YouTube and Bandcamp. But it's allowed a lot more people to have access to it for free. In the past, if said band, the others, could only give that product available to people at £10 for a CD and you had to buy it and you had no money, then maybe not so many people would listen to it. So you have to look at it both ways. Yes, I'm I'm losing a bit of money, but I'm getting a lot more access to a whole market of people that can
yeah,
listen to me for free. So I have to always weigh it up as like, okay, no product, but more accessibility.
absolutely. Yeah, it swings and roundabouts, of course, and yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying. Um, you mentioned going into town to get a VHS. I'm going to ask you now to tell me about the first record you remember buying from a record shop, please.
Yeah, this is a good one. But I've got to obviously answer this with respect to Manny in regards to the recent passing 2 days ago. So when I originally submitted these answers, it was
Mm.
long before we knew that Manny had passed away.
Mm.
So it's quite fitting, maybe,
Yeah, absolutely,
that I
absolutely.
chose this a few days before. I really didn't know he
Mm.
was going to be passing or anything. But it's the truth, and this is the album I bought. So what had happened is Stone Roses' Fool's Gold was just being played all the time, and you could hear it everywhere. On, even in like daytime, you just get it on Radio 1, it was everywhere, and it was just beautiful to hear. Thing is, we had no record shops in Wales, so I had to go get the bus up to Bristol. And when I went up there, there was two copies of the album. You could either get Stone Roses without Fool's Gold, hmm, or you could get Stone Roses 057841 with at the back of it an additional track, Fool's Gold, attached to the album. I thought, that's the track I want. It's on top of the album, but it's not the other album. So I'll just take this album. So for the first couple of years of my life, in my early teens, I thought the first Stone Roses album was called 057841. But I found out in later years it was a numbered copy. It was a numbered copy on tape for the bonus edition that featured obviously Fool's Gold.
Yeah,
So for most of my teenage years, I listened to that on tape, which maybe is a redundant format these days.
yeah. And I think, it's fantastic that we're getting to talk about Manny today because it was,
Mm,
such horrible news. Like, I mean, this show won't be out for a little while yet. So, as Dominic said, like we heard about Manny passing away just 2 days ago, and it's been so obviously it's horrible news for people. But
mm,
what the last 2 days has done is ensured that every radio station has been playing the Roses or
yeah.
Primal Scream and stuff, and it's been an absolute joy to hear them records. And I run a venue in Essex, and last night it was so nice to see a current crop of indie kids that are like 18, 19, losing their shit to the Roses, and it's fantastic that there's certain bands that are generational, that every band will have that moment. Sorry, every generation will have that moment where I've watched it. I've been at this venue 33 years, Dom, and I've seen the next batch of indie kids coming through year after year after year, and they're all still, just nothing makes me happier than, as much as it's great that they're losing their shit to these, to the current crop of new bands, but hearing like some 18-year-old come up and asking for the Smiths or asking for the Roses, it's like, it's nice. It's nice. It's like, it's
Mm.
just good to be able to play them records out loud and see them kids having that response that I had, in 1989 when I heard the Roses in that venue. And like, yeah, it's great. Absolutely great. And yeah, I think I drove home from the club last night at 4 o'clock this morning and just listening to the Roses. And I've heard that album a million and one times, and
Right.
it just, yeah, it just it resonated a little bit more last night, and
Right.
it's still a fucking incredible record, man.
So my stories about the Roses, if we're getting topical. So when they unfortunately had to cancel Glastonbury, because Squire had broken his collarbone, they did a thank you apologies gig to Michael Eavis at Pilton Party. So those of you who are uninitiated from outside the county of Somerset, Pilton Party is a thank you party that's held every year after Glastonbury Festival for the local residents of the village of Pilton to say thank you for allowing 1 million people in your tiny
Mm.
village for 3 or 4 days, and the proceeds of Pilton Party given through to the village to make things like their local community centre, build tennis courts, etc. in the community. So it's pro quo kind of thing. And that year, we waited patiently as young teenagers, didn't know what fucking band was playing, and Stone Roses turned up. We were like, wow, this is pretty incredible. Meant to watch them at Glastonbury. But we did notice the drummer looked a wee bit different, and it was Danny Maddox on drums, and it
Mm.
wasn't Rennie. But we took it, and we had a good gig, and we watched them play.
That's
Obviously,
incredible.
obviously, you know, after the concert, we all like young kids and went over and spoke to the band and stuff. Then many years passed, and obviously, you know the history. And my band got signed, fortunately. And it was around that period of 2005 where we were having to approach larger bands for potential support slots. And we'd secured a few support slots with sort of bigger bands, and I had to go for dinner with Bobby Gillespie and Manny and Alan McGee about a potential maybe support for them. Like would be like first support for one of their London shows. And they were interviewing many bands to see if like there was synergy between obviously the bands that they wanted to support. So I ended up having dinner with them. And obviously, my allegiance was with Alan McGee because he'd signed me. And obviously, I was quite a big Stone Roses fan. So there I was, sat with Manny for dinner. So I was thinking, right, how am I going to approach this? And then he goes, understand you're a blue nose. I was like, what? Understand you're a blue nose. I said, do you mean I'm a Manchester City fan, Manny? And he obviously is a United fan, so he didn't take too kindly to me being a City fan. And he said, "Look, you're from Somerset. Why do you support City?" So I had to kind of explain that one of sort of my mum's boyfriends that brought me up when I was sort of in my younger years was a Manchester City fan. and that's why I'd ended up supporting City. And he was very, very sort of dubious about the whole thing, and he was like, "You could support United and win things, and you're supporting City, and they're like in a lower league." And it's like, and you're from down that way, and you've ended up supporting City. He was almost baffled of
Yeah,
why most people from country towns support Arsenal, United,
yeah,
Liverpool because they're glory hunters. And I'd ended up supporting City, and he was just baffled by the fact that I was a City fan from like the middle of nowhere.
yeah.
So yeah, it was an interesting lunch together, and I'm glad that I had the chance to discuss my football team with him over lunch.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm going to ask you now to tell me the song that soundtracked your year's nightclubbing.
Well, I'm sure you have baffled yourself by this choice, and you're thinking, what the? Why did he chose this one? Um, Look, you know what it's like. You go clubbing and you have fun, and you meet people, and sometimes you meet boyfriends, you meet girlfriends, and that's what clubbing gives you. But I think it's a bit like that sort of saying about what goes on tour stays on tour. It's a bit like that with clubbing. I think clubbing's quite a magical experience, and it's just something that's there for the night, and you might meet a friend, and you might meet a partner. But at the same time, I don't want to sum that whole experience into songs particularly. So I thought it would be better to mark the experience of clubbing by the songs I generally listen to when I come back to the flat
Okay.
after clubbing. So you know that period you've exhaustedly got across town, maybe on one night tube, and then the
Mm,
night tubes have ended up in a night bus, and then you've had to get the night bus home, and that's taken about 2 hours to get to your part of London, and then you're home, you're knackered, potentially wet from the weather outside, and you just want to chill out. And then in the sort of 90s period, early 2000s, I would often listen to this, and this is Arab Strap, the first big weekend, which is from their first album. It's just a genius track. It does have a few dance beats, which is
mm,
unusual for me. But I always thought it's like a good come down track to play after you've actually been in a club playing dance beats, and it's kind
yeah.
of just winding down. So I used to play this Arab Strap song a lot. Seen Arab Strap quite a few times in my life. Um, I think sort of 90s, 2000, that period, when they were coming through. I got to see them at Islington Chapel Hall, which was really good. And I got to see them at Royal Festival Hall for something at a festival they were at. And I think Aidan Moffat is a great lyricist and very sort of dour, but
Absolutely.
at the same time has quite a good sense of humour too.
Yeah. So where would clubbing have been, and what sort of clubs was you going to in that late 90s, early
Oh,
2000s?
I divide it up into business and pleasure.
Okay.
Um, so business wise, I was having to, I needed to get signed, and I felt that maybe not every other band was putting in the hours that I was putting in. But that's why we got signed. It's like I really went for it in terms of trying to get signed. So my days of the week would be working from sort of 8 a.m. through to 5 p.m. every day in an office trying to sell advertising space for a hotel publication. Quite glamorous. And then in the evenings, I would divide my evenings with targeted clubs. So I would take, in the old days, copies of the CD, of the demo, in one pocket, and I would also make sure that my phone number was available in the press pack. I would target certain clubs. So Rough Trade used to do. a club night sort of once a week, or once every 2 weeks. So I would be going to that. I would go to Death Disco on a Wednesday, out in Notting Hill to try and target Alan McGee to sign me, which proved to be a successful endeavour. I would go to like the Barfly, for their club nights on Thursdays and Fridays. I would go to the Dirty Water Club, which was up in Tufnell Park on Fridays and Saturdays. I would go to Club for Losers, which is in Camden that Max ran. I'd go to Sean McCluskey's on the Rocks, which is in Shoreditch. And I would generally go around with CDs. And if I met a guy that was saying that he was A&R, or I knew that was A&R, or who was a manager of a band, or had some remote connection to being able to help me get signed, I would give them the CD in exchange, for their telephone number, and then hopefully try and sort of move things forward. So yeah, that was kind of my sort of clubbing from a business perspective. And then in terms of fun, I would say Dirty Water Club was for fun. And then LGBTQIA clubs in terms of being able to find my boyfriend at the time. So I met Johan, and without being able to go to LGBTQIA clubs in London, I would never have met Johan, and then I would never have had the opportunity to write the song on the first album. So, that was pleasure that also ended up being a bit of business because it got me a song on the album.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, I'm going to take you home now, Dom, and ask you to tell
Oh,
me a favourite track from your
yes.
home county, please.
Well, there are many, many fine bands from my county. The Trogs, you
Mm-hmm.
could say, are slightly Somerset, but are they Wiltshire as well?
Mm-hmm.
It's blurry ground. Um, and then obviously the finest band from our county are the Wurzels. So if you're a Bristol City fan, the Wurzels tend to come on at half time, for 10 minutes between the match interval and play a couple of songs from the Wurzels repertoire. And I've managed to get to see the Wurzels sort of 3 or 4 times in my career. The thing about the Wurzels is I suppose it's a bit like, I don't know, Chaz and Dave for Londoners. I suppose it's like the Mac lads for people in Macclesfield, and the Wurzels for us. It's just like something that you wear on your heart and sleeve kind of thing. Um,
Can't believe you've referenced the Mac Lads. That's the first time in 650 episodes someone's mentioned the Mac Lads. That's my first ever gig.
there's certainly an acquired taste.
Well, I discovered them through Viz, and
Yes.
as a Viz reader, there was just this band that were doing sweary songs that I just thought, oh, that sounds rude. And as a 14-year-old kid, I was like, I'm going to go to Cliff's Pavilion in Southend and see that band that swear a lot that are written about in Viz. But when you go back and look at their repertoire now,
Yes.
it doesn't hold up very well.
No, they obviously went into some tricky subject matter,
That's to yeah, to that yeah, one
put
hundred
it
and ten
politely.
percent that yeah, exactly, exactly.
But yeah, I not my cup of tea. But I was
No,
just trying to give a, a reference of regional bands,
mm,
so whether that's them for representing the Macclesfield area, or
mm,
Chaz and Dave for London, or the Wurzels for Somerset. And
mm.
the Wurzels for us, I the last time I saw them was at Glastonbury Festival, and they were playing to like 10,000. And there was Bristol City shirts, and Yeovil Town shirts, and Bristol Rovers shirts, and Exeter City shirts. So it was quite a thing, and it's quite emotional, the songs. It's like it really is. 10,000 farmers singing, "Drink up the cider, drink up the cider." Oh, there's some classic songs, but I didn't want to choose, Combine Harvester, or Blackbird Song or Drink Up the Cider because obviously everyone knows those, and they're just like songs that are, very famous by the Wurzels. So
Yeah.
I've chose Pill Pill. So Pill Pill, it certainly wasn't the Wurzels on their ecstasy period, if you're thinking that. So it's not anything to do with pilling or anything. But what it is to do with is the Pill Ferry. So near Bristol, there was the old Pill Ferry before the bridge was made that you would have to sit on the Pill Ferry to get to the other side and back. It was a frequent service every hour and helped to transport people and took lots of farming goods and stuff across. But it's a wicked song. If you have a chance to listen to Pill Pill, I don't know, it's the kind of song that makes you cry and has this conjuring up images of the countryside. So the Wurzels for me, Pill Pill is a wonderful reminder of days gone by.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm going to ask you for your last track now, Don. I'm going to ask you, please, to
Yeah.
tell me a song that you think many may not know that you would like them to hear, please.
Yeah, I don't know much about this band. Okay. It's hard to find much stuff about this band. I think this track was available only in 2022. And as far as I'm aware, they've only got two tracks and they're both great. And I can only find them on YouTube. Um, what I always try to do if I'm doing any sort of compilation question list with regards to songs is to try to maybe back other bands that not everyone's heard of because once someone did that for me. So I would like to hope, people do that and
Yeah, of course.
you follow the same example. So the band's called The Web of Lies. I'm sorry, I don't know much about them, where they're from. I think they're from the south of England, but it's very vague in terms of information about this band. The song is called Receiver. It's got an odd video that you can get on YouTube. It's very drony. It's kind of reminds me of the Warlocks a bit.
Okay.
It's a very drony song. I really like it. Had it for the last few years. Can't find much information about the band, but if I ever saw them advertised to play, I would be definitely wanting to watch them play. And I'm sorry, I've just not got much more information, but it's a really good song.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I mean, the whole purpose of this question is to turn someone onto something new that they may not know. And by the sounds of things, you're into it and you know very little about it, so no one else is going to know anything about it. So that's exactly what this question's for.
Yeah,
Fantastic choice.
maybe some of your listeners or viewers who know about them can maybe inform someone old like me with a bit more information, like I don't know, when they're next playing would be cool.
Superb. Well, look, if anyone knows anything, then drop us a message and I'll pass it on
Yeah,
to Dom. Um, Look, we've been speaking about everyone else's music and we've not spoken about you and yours. So
yeah.
what's happening with your music, Dom?
Wow. Has been a few years of absence, as you may have well seen. So around 2015, we kind of decided to have another hiatus, sort of our second one. And then lockdown hit. When lockdown hit, about a month after lockdown hit, I did a interview for 22 Gram Pod, and a lot of people engaged with that. And it seemed like the 853 or the 853 Kamikaze Stage Diving Division, to those of you uninitiated, were keen to hear a bit more from the band because we'd been pretty silent for 6 years. So we then started seeing some videos being published by RevJock on YouTube, which were older concerts of ours, which we'd never seen before in 2004 and 2005. And then they got kind of really well received online. So it was like, okay. So then when we were coming out of lockdown, we all suggested that we meet up in Brighton. Then we wrote the fourth album. And then we did a 2022 20th anniversary gig of the others where we played songs from the first four albums and we sold out at the Grace. Then in 2023, we released the fourth album, which was Look at You All Now, which has a nice picture of us all standing on Brighton Beach. We released that and then did a gig at the garage. And then 2024, we had off to record the fifth and the sixth albums. And then 2025, we sold out at the 100 Club in March this year for the 20th anniversary of our debut album, The Others, self-titled. And then we released our fifth album, Difficulties Understanding, this year as well, which is available for free on Spotify, YouTube, and Bandcamp. And you can just go and listen to it for free, but there's no physical copies. And then just recently, a week ago, we played at Shine On Festival in Minehead in Butlins. Maybe one of the younger bands on the bill,
Mm,
if you can say that, with the average age of the band that I'm in at being 48. Um, we were still one of the younger bands on the bill. And so we did feel like sort of wee whippersnappers on the bill
yeah,
when you're coming up to bands that are maybe, sort of 10 years more senior than us. And obviously, I'd had a few more hits and stuff like that. We were really grateful to be on the bill. We didn't come on till 1:45 in the morning, so we were slightly scared, dubious, skeptical about how many people would actually turn up.
yeah,
It was incredible. We really didn't expect as many people to turn up as they did. 1:45, when you've got sort of bands like I don't know who are doing festival favorite songs, maybe like Oasis songs and Stone
yeah,
Roses songs. You understand why the crowd would gravitate to that at
yeah,
one
of
in the
course.
morning. So to get a few people coming to watch us at 1:45, we were well happy. So we did that, and then we've got the sixth album, which we're looking to release in February, March time. And then we'll be doing on Friday, the 20th of March, we'll be doing the 20th anniversary of our second album, Inward Parts. And that will be the last of our anniversary gigs until 2032. And we'll be playing at the Grace in Highbury in Islington, which is just above the garage.
Yeah,
And that'll be the last of the anniversary gigs because we've done like obviously now three in the last sort of four gigs,
yeah,
and it'll be sort of the end of having to try to relearn a whole album
yeah, yeah,
when you may not have played the songs for a long time.
yeah, of course.
It's quite tough and challenging mentally because you have to go, okay, I haven't sung, I don't know, in the background since 2007 from the
Yeah,
first album. And I had to spend a year learning that. And now I've got like 4 months to sing songs like, Watch It, which I haven't sung since 2008. So that's kind of cool because it's a challenge, isn't it?
yeah, of course.
Okay, can I revisit these songs? Can I do them justice 20 years on? Can I remember all the words?
Yeah,
Luckily, I've managed to remember all the words to the first album for both gigs this year, and now fingers crossed. I hope I can do it for the second album. Like I hope. Uh, fingers crossed.
absolutely, absolutely. If people want to keep up to speed with releases, dates, and
Ah.
such, where's the best place to do that?
Um, well, yeah. Um, We do have a Facebook site, but I'm fully aware for most of you out there, if you just put the others in, it probably brings up the others, the film. There's about 9 or 10 bands called the others, and many other things that come up when you put the others in. So if you're very specific with your search on Facebook, if you're from the older audience like myself, just put the others UK, and that will bring up our Facebook site. We have a Bandcamp site, which is the Others UK on Bandcamp. And then we have Spotify, which is the Others UK as well. But you might also when you're searching for that, come up with the drum and bass others. So do try to understand that there is a drum and bass others. I haven't deviated from rock and roll these last few years, but just search for say William or Stan Bowles from one of the classic songs, and you'll find the others UK on Spotify. But be warned, I have not gone into drum and bass or garage. We haven't sort of deviated. We've
Yet.
stuck to rock and roll.
There's still time, mate. There's still time.
Well, yes, could be a garage remix in the pipeline.
I'll put the links in the show notes of this so people can just click them and go and explore and keep up the speed with everything that you're up to. Dom, it's been an absolute pleasure talking records
Likewise.
with you today. Thank you so much for giving up your time on a Saturday to do this.
It's been brilliant, and thanks ever so much for having us on your show and being able to go through the songs. I thought they were really good questions with regards to the songs, and there's not many shows that get to feature the Wurzels Pill Pill song. So I'm hoping your audience will appreciate the song.
It's definitely a first for us. Thanks, Dom. I'm going to press stop, but don't go
All
anywhere.
right, take care.